What's cooler than being cool? This podcast. Welcome to Cool, 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 a podcast where we talk to cool people about cool tech and cool stories. So get ready to embrace your inner cool kid as we go behind the scenes with today's cutting edge innovators and storytellers. I'm your host, Cameron Kitt, filmmaker and founder of a documentary storytelling company called Yo-Yos. My job is finding the coolest people out there. And today we have Angela Mascarenas, a trailblazer in the world of AI and community building. I like to call her the queen bee of AI communities. That's really you. You're like I don't know, there's not that many women out there doing that I
Oh
know.
yeah, thank you. No, totally agree.
So yeah, I mean, you're not just riding the wave of the AI world, you're also making some of those waves because you're working with deepfake detection and vocal AI, which I think is so important, and building up the AI furnace, as we know. But yeah, let's get into it. Angela, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So were you a cool kid growing up?
I was always like a social person, so like amongst my friends, I'm always the one that's like organizing things, always like getting people together. So it's actually not that surprising, I think, that I moved into community building because I was always the one that was like hosting the get-togethers and like parties and stuff like that all through like high school, college, post college, like in my career and stuff like
Oh, that's so
that.
interesting. So this is just like something that's come naturally to you, is drawing people together
Yeah,
and like
100%.
throwing
So
events.
like yeah. So like um I went to school at RPI. A little bit about me: I studied financial engineering
Hmm.
and business. Went to work at like big corporates like Accenture, Morgan Stanley, JP
Yeah.
Morgan, doing product work for new cutting edge technology. So I worked on like a variety of different mobile apps, digital wallets, neo banking, the Girl Scouts mobile app, all these like kind of digital experiences. And on the side, I was always the person that was like organizing the corporate holiday party, like the get-togethers within like the community and stuff like that. So it's just been something that I've naturally done. And so when we ran into um, issues building our startup, like in the New York City area, it just became a way for me to be able to meet other really cool AI entrepreneurs and other AI researchers in the area by organizing events.
So has it been achieving what you were looking for? Has it been helping you like find mentors and groups and people to talk to about what you guys are doing? Has it worked for you?
Yeah, so I could tell you more about what I'm building. So I am one of the co-founders of Vocal AI. We're focused on new cybersecurity threats that companies are facing with generative AI, and the first one being around deepfakes. So deepfake detection, and also how to train up organizations on like the human element of um, like how this new technology is being used for fraud. And so we started the AI Furnace. I have the same co-founder for both companies to be able to um, meet other like AI researchers, like cutting edge people working on deep tech and like research out of the New York City area because we weren't willing to move to San Francisco. And so
I don't know. I mean, no offense, but like I like it here. So yes, thank you, Angela, for like actually like helping establish a foothold. Because everyone who I interview about AI, it says San Francisco under their LinkedIn page.
yeah, 100%. So like one of the reasons why we started it is that like deep tech and like R&D, most of the founders like that are kind of building that space are moving to San Francisco because there's a lot of resources, a lot of funding, a lot of talent density around that. And born and raised in New York, like I believe in New York, and like I always thought that New York could kind of like compete against San Francisco for like AI talent and AI companies kind of coming out of here. And so this started out of me not wanting to move out there.
But there's like a bigger philosophical thing behind this too, which is being the like first snowball that starts rolling to try and compete with San Francisco. I didn't know that, and I love that so much because I've been to a handful of your events and I love them so much, and it's just interesting. Like it seems like across your life and your adult life, you've seen how much people want to come together and how grateful they are for just a space and a time to talk and to see what each other is doing. We don't want to be isolated in our home office like looking at what each other person is doing on Twitter, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's really
100%.
cool. And
Yeah.
so
I mean, I think like one of like the recurring themes like in my life has just been about meeting people at the right time and right place, and opportunities coming from meeting people. So like my first job, I was like on the train to interview with another company, and I sat next to an Accenture manager on the Excel at Amtrak, and he got me into Accenture. And so I've always found that like when you meet people like IRL and in person, you're a lot more opportunities kind of like open up. And you can kind of like make things happen and kind of skip the line. I like that like quote actually, but like skip the line in terms of like just going through like a traditional recruiting process for like any kind of opportunity that you have.
I love that. I mean, I agree, and it's just so interesting. Like we can't get away from it. As much as things go virtual, we're meant to be in person. Like, I don't know if you know if you've seen this, but like this return to the conferences. I always thought that like giant conferences were kind of passe and that we could get past it and then we wouldn't go back to it. It's like, no, people need the conference. They need to meet you in person and shake your hand and talk to you. Like, what is it about meeting in person that is different? Like, what do you think is the secret for that?
I think that when you're like applying for things or you have opportunities that are online, it's a lot less personal. And when you meet someone in person, it kind of cuts that barrier, and you can kind of form your own opinion about that person. And you just have like a much more pleasant experience when you meet in person. So to answer your earlier questions about like, has it been a vehicle to meet people? It's actually been like so incredible. So we started the community 10 months ago, and in 10 months, we've grown to 15,000 subscribers.
Wait,
We're
it's
in
only been
five,
10 months?
yeah, in 10 months, yeah.
What?
Yeah. So it's actually like 10 months. We're in 4 countries, 5 cities right now. So we're in New York, Paris, London, Dubai, and Boston. Um, we actually like when we first started, we went viral within like the first like 1 to 2 months. But we had all these AI founders, AI entrepreneurs from around the world reaching out, being like, "Hey, like we need this in our cities. Like I live in Singapore, like Saudi, like Sweden, Sydney, um, Portugal, Spain, um, and it's been kind of like a movement to be able to find that and find community amongst like other AI innovators that are building. And because I didn't come from like an Ivy League school, I went to a really great school. I went to RPI, but in AI, sometimes there tends to be a little bit of elitism there where like the top people are coming from like Oxford, they're coming from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley. um, Community has been key in being able to like forge my own connections and build my own relationships, like and kind of create the community I needed to build our own startup.
Yeah,
And so through the community, I've been able to meet like amazing entrepreneurs that have been like ultra successful. I've met
yeah.
so many like venture capitalists, like very emerging startups who like in the course of 6 months go from like bootstrap to like seed stage. Um, Amazing thinkers, like people that are thinking about quantum and and GPU optimization or AI and cyber AI and the environment, like just really really cool like cutting edge technology.
So, like, you've met people that have blown your mind by offering a service that you needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it turned out like a lot of people needed it.
I think it's just
So
true in general. We need community, and it's something that more and more we don't have. And like that lack of community is what's caused all this anxiety and stress, right? We're meant to be in community. Like as humans, that's how we evolved and are kind of designed is like we want to be in groups and we crave that. And yeah, like I like this idea of like if I want to succeed, I need to meet my peers, not if I want to succeed, I need to beat my peers. And like I love that so much, and I just think it's like amazing. Like when you see how fast it took off, you realize like, oh wow, what everyone needed, what I needed, and yeah, it's so cool that you've gotten to meet all these fantastic people. Like even just from the few events I go to, it just fills me with excitement. Like yeah, like you said about quantum and how people are doing things with AI that I had never thought of. And some of it seems mundane and some of it's incredible. Like, I mean, let's go back to cybersecurity. I didn't know that now there are AIs that can replicate your voice, right? I did know that. But what people are using them for is to call the bank and ask it to change the PIN number with that person's voice,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if you guys do voice detection or what kind of other fraud, but there's certain things that like these applications are being used right now. And so being able to
Yeah.
like actually
Yeah.
detect that.
So 100%. So like these tools have the ability to be like transformational, like these LLMs. So like 11 Labs, like OpenAI, Runway, um, Mid Journey. These tools are really amazing, but at the same time, like because they're so cheap, they're so accessible. Like people who have like kind of malicious intent also have access to those same tools for like a very very cheap price. And so before, actually, what was interesting is that you could use like a voice changer, which I know like sometimes they have those in like in different film because they want to hide someone's identity, and it was a human on the other side, and then there would be like a voice changer in between. The difference now between where the tech is now and where it was before is that now you can put like a chat GPT like behind that. And so like things that you could do before where it was like one-on-one kind of attacks, you could do one to many using AI, which is crazy. So imagine like creating like a malicious like kind of bot that's like, I want to extract information out of you so that I can like, and it's not one person behind it. It's like it's an AI agent or it's like an AI robot like behind there that's mimicking someone's voice. So you can kind of do these very highly custom attacks at scale. And so I think AI is like amazing, but also there's like safety
Mm,
that is needed to make sure it doesn't erode on our values and kind of like society kind of things that we like need
yeah.
to be a healthy society.
There's a balance, right, between this like unchecked excitement and innovation. And I'm glad that there are these conversations happening. But I do worry about, of course, like things like bias, and we're all talking about them, but like actually putting into place. Like I'm glad that there's people like you who are like, okay, there's lots of also very smart people fighting cybersecurity issues. Let's go back to like, I love this story of you sitting down on the Acela look with like a little blazer on ready to go for a job interview, and then you sit next to your like actual future boss. That's such a great story.
Yeah.
Like how did that get started? Like was this
Yeah.
person like, where are
So
you going?
yeah, so I mean, there's all different ways like people will get like their job opportunities. But after college, I went to RPI, which is like a great feeder school actually for like Google and Meta and like these big companies. But they actually don't recruit there. The funny thing is that they don't recruit there for business people, so they only go there for like the engineers. And so the challenging thing was that like all these amazing companies were like, coming to our school, but they weren't like looking for people like me. And so things that they don't tell you, I think, are more important than what they tell you in a way. And so for this, I actually applied. It's called like bait and switch, which is when you apply for like a random job that you're not the best candidate for, but because you applied to them, you're now in their system, so they can kind of like search for you for like another role. And so I actually got invited to speak at invited to interview with SAP in Philadelphia. And so it was a consulting job. And on the train, I sat next to an Accenture manager, um, who, and Accenture is a consulting company, who was doing like recruitment for Accenture at Columbia. And so he had asked me, like, I started a conversation with him. Um, I'm really good at this actually, like just starting like random conversations with people. And then he actually was like, "Hey, like, have you thought about applying to Accenture?" And I said no, even though I had actually gotten rejected. So I had
Hadn't crossed my mind yet. You mean the biggest, most successful consulting firm? No, no, I don't know yet. Yeah,
yeah. So I was like,
it's
oh,
so funny.
like, oh, I've thought about Accenture, but like I haven't applied. But I had actually gotten rejected. And then he was like, okay, I'm gonna like put in I'm gonna do a referral for you and like put you in, and
There we
then
go.
that's how I got in.
There we go. No, like this is just repeating what like kind of like this like theme of Angela's life, which is like meeting people in person changes the game. He trusted you. He talked to you. And also I love this like skill of just initiating the conversation. Like the networking is hard and it's vulnerable and it's like stressful and tiring. Your body when you leave a long networking event, most people are tired because you're kind of on edge, but like it's so worth it, right? Because that's where the opportunities come from. So you went from this kind of switch from a really successful corporate career to entrepreneurship. Like, what motivated you to take the leap, and how did that happen?
Yeah, so consulting is really great, like early in your career, where you can try a lot of different things, like as an analyst, and you can be across multiple industries, try a lot of different jobs before you kind of like decide the area that you want to settle in on. And so one of the projects that I had worked on was the Girl Scouts app, which is bringing like their cookie program like online. And so I was part of like the original team that worked on that to bring it online through an e-commerce application and also like learning platform for girls to like learn about um, how to do entrepreneurship like online. And so that project was really crazy. We worked really, really crazy hours between like 80 to 120 hours a week. And I would say that most people would kind of be like really put off by it. But because I was like so early in my career, I kept raising my hand. I was like, give me more work to do. Like, oh, you need me to like present to um, like the board of directors? Like, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I have actually like taken like really, really challenging things and I've turned them into opportunities. And so I started to see like very early in my career that because I could work really well, I could open up opportunities for me to get more experience than like some of my other peers. And so I was able to go through like tremendous growth from like a very early point in my career, like dealing with executives, like building products, doing things in very, very small and lean teams. Cause you can imagine that like nonprofits, they have a smaller budget. And so being able to, um, being able to um, like build products like in a small and lean team. Like I actually thrived in environments like that. And so after doing that, I was like, wow, if I could do this for another company, I'm pretty sure I could do this for myself.
Mm.
And
You'd
so
like
I was
road
like,
tested the skills, right? You
yeah,
were like, okay,
because
I've
like,
already done this.
yeah, because our app, and I first started off with the website, we scaled it nationwide. Then I created a mobile app, then we scaled it nationwide. I we actually demoed this product at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. And so that like opened my eyes to be like, whoa, I'm like pretty early in my career. And like, I know I could work this hard to get this over the line. If I could do this for someone else, I'm pretty sure I could do this for myself. But to be honest, like it's a really big leap to go from corporate into startups. So I actually worked at JP Morgan, which was one of my clients at the time, and went client side. And it took me 2 years after that point to have the guts to do my own startup.
That's
It's a
amazing.
usually it's a usually because if you go from corporate, all of your friends are there, your entire network is there. Startup
Oh,
people are so different. Like I
how
didn't
are
have like a network in startups. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, how are startup people different from corporate people?
In early stage startups, you're looking for like more generalist type of people who can kind of like wear multiple hats. So almost like a chief
Mm,
of staff, it's like a little
yeah.
bit ambiguous. You can kind of be placed in multiple places. When you're working in a large enterprise and you might be like a VP or manager or senior manager level, like your role is more targeted and like very specific. And you might own like one specific feature or one line of business. In startups, it's very broad. Like you're gonna need to do things from like payroll to organizing events um, to building things with developers to working with customers. It's the skill set is totally different, and I actually think that there's like a bit of a gap that happens if you decide to go from corporate to startups, because the skill set that you need is vastly different.
Oh, saying that makes so much sense. Like, and also what you said about not having a community. So you had built those skills from kind of within a more larger corporate zone. You built startup skills, but then you knew you're going to need a community, so you built your own community, which I think is great advice. I mean, somebody gave me advice recently, like build a tribe of people who do documentaries, like look for people who are doing what you're doing. And it was like a huge light bulb. I was like, oh yeah, I can talk to I'm not the only person, making these films. And it is who you know. It's the same in film, it's the same in every industry, right? Getting to know people and being brave and walking up to people. That's why I love going to your events, because I don't know if it's just the vibe. There's a lot of positive vibe. It's not like scary. But yeah, people walk up to me. I'm normally the one who walks up to people. So I was like pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, other people are initiating conversation. So I think people are realizing that. I mean, and especially when you're in a startup, you kind of know you got to be like walking up to people saying, hi, my name's Cameron. Here's what I do. You have to be putting yourself out there. Um, so let's go back to AI Furnace. It's only been 10 months. You guys are in a huge amount of growth, and you've done so many events, right? You're like doing stuff in Boston, you're traveling all over the world. Can you tell me like what's one of the more memorable moments from an event that really like solidified this idea of like the impact you were having on the AI community?
Yeah. So one of the things I told you, I told you one of the observations that I kind of made in AI is that it kind of like looks a certain way. People are coming from certain types of pedigrees. And so I've actually had founders kind of tell me that like they didn't think I could do something, or that I didn't come from this kind of pedigree, so they didn't think like I could do something. And so one of the things that kind of solidified to me that we were like onto something, and that I could make up my own rules. I actually think that this is like the biggest um, thing that entrepreneurs, how entrepreneurs think, and what is my philosophy on life is that you can create your own opportunity and your own path there. But we hosted our first AI startup summit at the MIT Innovation Lab. And so our vision for it was to bring together AI researchers from MIT and Harvard and connect them with AI founders that we had met from across the United States. And so that was like a really beautiful and synergistic kind of meeting, because we realized that um, founders, including ourselves, like we need to know other amazing AI researchers. And so we partnered with actually like AI clubs like out of Harvard and MIT. And so, and we brought in founders that were coming in from LA, coming from Seattle, coming from New York to come and present. And so that was like a really beautiful thing, and showed us like the impact that we could have about bringing brain trust and value to like the AI founders and researchers in our community. um, because similar to your own community with your own documentary community, it's like smart people want to be around really smart people, and so if you provide value there, that is really interesting. And so that format, we had 200 people attend. We actually replicated in London with Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, and Imperial. And so what's interesting is that it was organized by someone that didn't come from these brand names. And so I thought that that was like kind of like a really cool thing to happen.
That was your first event?
No,
Okay, okay,
that
okay,
was
okay.
like that was not our first
That was
event.
like the moment where you were like, yes. Okay, smart
Yeah,
people
like
want to be around
everything
smart
started to
people.
come together. Like
Yeah.
um, people started to reach out. Like I had actually spoken to some other schools that were like local in New York, and that like put us on the map with like really amazing institutions coming out of New York. Um, and so yeah, I mean that was like a kind of cool moment for us.
That's really cool. Yeah, like when you talk about offering value, like being a place that you can be a connector for other people is really invaluable. And I've been to other like AI networking and mixer stuff, but I'm not trying to blow smoke. I think you guys are my favorite.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
all right. Little quick break. This podcast is brought to you by Yo-Yos. You Own Your Own Stories, a documentary storytelling company that demystifies cutting-edge technology with emotional human stories. Got a cool story to share? We can help you get it out there. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of similarity in like what I do and what you do, or just like I'm looking for cool people and how do I like bring that story out to a bigger audience, and you're looking for cool people and how do you connect those people and bring the right audience to them so that they can then go bigger. I just want to know, like, you've had how many events so far in 10 months?
Honestly, it could be like between 40 to 50 across like multiple cities. Yeah, it's
So,
been a lot.
for some people, one event is a lot, like that's incredible. And so I feel like hopefully you've gotten better, but like, what is one of the zaniest AI use cases you've seen or heard at your events that just like shocked you, blew your mind, good or bad, like was really interesting to you?
Um, I think that there's like a lot of really cool use cases, but some ones that I think are like kind of like cool shock and awe ones are you went to our demo day like last year for Tech Week.
Yes, loved it.
We had Hey Milo there. I think what they're doing is really interesting, but they're using, if you remember, they were using like voice agents to interview first round candidates for jobs. And so this is so crazy because you're a candidate going through the interview process, and you're actually interviewing with an AI who is assessing you. Which is to me is like kind of like a mind blowing thing because you're like, whoa, like it's not even like a human on the other line; it's like some
No,
AI.
I've got to say the right things to the algorithm. I mean, they're becoming more and more
Exactly.
like people, right? They're trained up on people data, so they're becoming a lot more like people, right? They don't always have the right answer, but that's interesting. I mean, like somebody was like talking to me about this and they're like, I can't believe that I like an algorithm's going to have a choice in what I do. I was like, you are already the Google search algorithm already controls a lot of your life. Like you don't under we already like but businesses do whatever they can to make the Google search algorithm like them, and that's not a person. So I think it's not like a complete break, but as someone who has hired and fired a lot of people, I ran an animation studio before this. Hired and fired a lot of people sounds really bad. But like that's what happens in a small business. I haven't had to fire that many people, but interviewing is a lot of work. It's so much emotional energy, and I can see why there would be a use case for it. But I can also see there being like a lot of fear of like, okay, well, what do I need to do differently? So why does that stand out to you? That Hey Milo one?
Because I think it shows where every industry is headed, where there's going to be a lot of efficiencies created by AI. So it's like, how are the rules going to adjust and change is like the real question. It's not
Hmm.
like, is the innovation coming? It's like, it's already here. It's moving really fast. Like, what does this mean? And I think actually this is what drives like a lot of people to our events is like, they're very curious about how AI is going to change their job, change their day to day, change what their industry is going to look like. And I actually like, instead of prescribing, I actually like for people to see the tech because it allows them to make that their own conclusions around like what is like really happening. How is it going to affect their area, and like what are the use cases? But to counter that example, I've actually also seen startups where they are coming up with scripts on the interviewer side so that it's analyzing like what they're saying and it's giving you a script to say to
Wait,
pass
a
the
counter
interview.
script?
Yeah, it's like a counter
Wow.
interview.
So let's say the AI interviewer says the classic, like, tell me about a challenge you've overcome at work and how you handled it. And then the script would say, all right, now say this, right? It would tell you what
Yeah.
to respond with.
So it's
That's
almost
so
like an
funny.
AI versus an AI.
I mean, this is kind of an intro to like the future of agents. The best use case that I can see for agents is the personal assistant, and everyone wants that, right? I mean, I guess not everyone wants it, but like I want someone to reschedule my meetings. That's the most all I want, right? If somebody can reschedule and handle all of my meeting rescheduling. But there's a future state where like I've heard the CEO of Bumble saying like in the future dating will be your agent talking to another person's agent, right? So this is like a potential future where
100%. I
there
100% believe that.
yeah, they're going to be doing a lot of that forward facing work. And I think that's kind of interesting because, like, in a way, that's the opposite of what you're proposing with meeting people in person, right? Meeting people in person does require energy and fear and like chance, and there's trust. But if you have your agents constantly going ahead of you to make those first meetings, I don't know. I assume it will save time if it's things like book me a dentist appointment. Yeah.
I think it's a challenging thing because with a lot of this automation and using AI to like do outreach and sales outbound and stuff like that, I actually think like a lot of fatigue also happens.
Yeah.
So it's like instead of having like 10 emails, you might have like 100 emails. So and
Yeah.
so in some ways, actually, like in-person interaction becomes even more important because it's
Mhm.
going to be harder and harder to sift through like those 100 vendors versus like the 10 that came through before.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's supposed to
so,
make our
yeah,
lives easier, right? That's the goal.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, no, no. I totally agree, and I think it's a window into like what the future could look like. But the exciting thing about AI right now is that it's still relatively early, and it's just like it's starting to show inklings of what it could end up
Yeah.
what it could end up being. And so that's what I find exciting about building my startup and also building my community is being able to be at the forefront and see those changes at the earliest stages. And so actually the most innovative things right now are happening at the earliest stage startups,
Hmm.
which is why I think like some of the events are like very interesting right now.
I mean, yeah, there and it's across every industry and use case. There's B2C, there's B2B, there's like one of the ones I saw was like a travel agent that was going to pick your entire itinerary. Like I was like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That would be amazing," right? Like where can we take the like time and energy and emotional labor that you would normally spend? I mean, most of the time I'm seeing it as a tool that's going to make my life better and make my life more efficient. But the hours that you worked at Accenture, my goal is to work like less than 40 hours a week, right? My goal is to run a successful startup and not actually spend as much time at work. I want to be able to spend more time making the things and doing the things I want. I kind of think that's coming. It feels like there's a little bit of that, but of course, people really have a lot of fear, and I think that's why there's so much attention. I think the media really likes to hype, and so what's really interesting what you said is like the most innovative things are happening on the startup level, like on the ground floor, and people sharing ideas and looking for engineers, and yeah. So you've shared that your kind of life motto is like meeting people is the secret, or like meeting people in IRL possibilities help you skip the line. What is
Yeah.
something else that you believe that almost no one else agrees with you on?
This is like another example of skip the line, but the AI furnace has opened up like a lot of amazing opportunities that we just never thought would be possible. Typically, for an entrepreneur, they'll, if they want to become an investor, for example, they will do their startup. Like it might have some sort of exit. Maybe they got acquired. Like maybe they got acquired. Maybe like something happened. Like did really well, and then they sold the company and they'll typically like become an investor because they have operating experience, or they'll become an investor because they started off as an analyst and like they work their way up into partner. But one of the things about AI Furnace is that we've built like this incredible community of early stage AI entrepreneurs from bootstrap to like Series A, and so it's actually opened up that opportunity for us to potentially like have our own fund one day, which is kind of like a mind blowing thing. It's like, whoa, like I don't follow like any, like I'm not like, I have not had like an exited startup yet. I have not like been a VC analyst and worked my way up. And it's like, whoa, like this is an opportunity that's kind of opened up because I created something that like had value and it kind of fits within that ecosystem. And so that's like an example of something about like kind of like paving my own way and creating my own opportunities through by using like almost like my creativity, but in an entrepreneurial way.
I love that. Yeah, you can create your own opportunities, and that's not something you would ever imagine being able to do. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. Did that happen as well? For I know that you've also had like your own
I
entrepreneurial
th-
like kind of
I
path.
think I think I have been that same way. I mean, like, my friends in film, there's a whole spectrum in the film world, right? And when you study and do something creative, um, hi Penguin, joining the podcast. When you do something creative, the like how do I get paid question is always filled with a lot of angst and shame and fear. And you can either work your way up the similar to what you said about the analyst. You can start at the bottom as a PA and work your way up the system. Let's say you start working on an HBO show, and then 5 or 6 years later you could be the head of a department, you could be the head of costume or something like that. But if you want to just make your own films and be a director, you kind of just have to do it yourself. And so there is no single path, right? You just have to find a way to scramble the money together or make the film, and everything is DIY out there. So in film, it is a lot of make your own opportunity. And I didn't know anyone else who came up with this idea. After I started the business, I found people who also came up with the idea. It turns out I wasn't the only person thinking about making like my whole thing is I make documentaries that go to film festivals, and then if the brand wants that, like where's that connection, right? That it's not fully branded content. Turns out other people do that, but that's cool. And so yeah, I thought I was kind of making my own way, and I have to say I feel very proud when I talk to film my friends because I am making a living doing this, and I like feel pretty good about it. And things are coming my way, just like with you. Things are coming my way I didn't expect, so I just keep being open to them. Like I'm working with aerospace companies, and like all the nerdy solar punk stuff that I want to make is happening, and that's where like I'm like excited. It's sort of like what you're doing. It's like I'm just excited about people pushing the future happening forward. Like how are we getting steps closer to Star Trek? And that's really what I'm looking for. But
Yeah,
great question. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
actually found like the same thing, and like I think one of the challenges that I've personally like had to go through is just being okay with being different. And I think like
Mm,
when you decide to kind of forge down a path like this, it's like your friends are supportive and your family is supportive, but like they don't quite understand like the journey that you're going on because
yeah,
you're kind of disregarding like a traditional structure and you're going things out in like a new way. You probably
yeah,
felt that way, like even from like your high school friends or something. Like they're just
yeah,
doing very, very drastically different
yeah,
things. And so one of the things I've um, had to kind of overcome and like deal with is just like being kind of different, being okay with being different, and yeah, actually finding the right mentors for different at different times, and also knowing when like some mentors you'll have at certain points, but then at other mentors you might need a totally different set of mentors. So at a different point you might need different needs. So just kind of like going through that, I think is important, and seeing like I don't know what you did with your when you decided to focus on this documentary business, but finding like mentors for that specific space that
yeah.
are in the position that you want to be in.
Yes, I went on this
What
app
did you
called
do for
Claire.
that?
Yeah, I went on this app called Clarity.fm, which is where you can buy 15 minutes of consulting with a person in any industry. I highly recommend checking it out because there's like people on that app who are like Emmy award winning producers, and it's like $40 a minute or something crazy, right? And then
Oh
there's
wow.
people who are like, $1 a minute, and you can talk to me about whatever. And I literally went and found a guy who'd run a video production agency. And so he's like my coach. I was like, you like tell me exactly what to do. And every time I meet with him, he saves me like hundreds or thousands of dollars, like just because he's already been through it. And that's life changing. And I'm in a bunch of like women's film groups as well because you just need other people to talk to. And going with like the female angle feels a little safer to me. That's something we haven't talked a lot about. Is like I mentioned it. It's like you're a woman starting this, but you're not making this like an exclusionary thing. But it is interesting. Like women are not getting funded as much. Women founders don't get funded as much. So in a way, you're just like again paving your way around that and saying like, I'm not just going to sit back and wait for people to knock down my door. I'm going to look for mentors by creating a space where they're going to come to me. And I think that's advice everyone can take. And that's what's so cool about you. That's why we reached out.
Did you come to our Power Women in AI event?
No, I
Did
didn't.
you
I
come to that?
I wanted to. I think I was traveling for a shoot.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that
tell
one
me
was
about it.
amazing. So, yeah, so one of the things like being a woman in the space, AI, there's like so few women, and then let alone cyber, it's like an even crazier number of people that are like cyber women founders. But one thing I've noticed in being in this early stage space is that like actually a lot of women are waiting for things to kind of be perfect before they present. And so one of the things like I've had to do when we have demo days is like push people to be like, hey, like I think what you have is good. Like we have other founders here that are male that are like pushing themselves forward, and they have like half of what you have, which is like so different. And so I've had to like in trying to be more exclusionary, I've had to try to like push more women to present and feel ready.
Hmm.
Um, kind of, and it's a very different kind of thing. And so that's one way that I try to like push for more DEI and more equality is like getting more women to present, even though they don't feel ready. Second is we hosted an event back in March called Power Women in AI, and instead of like I've seen like some panels where we kind of like we'll bring together women, and it's kind of like talking about like a lot of the challenges. And sometimes it kind of has like a negative connotation. So what I wanted to do was like organize an event where like we flipped the script and we like celebrated women that are in the space that are killing it, because I wanted to show like examples of people that were making it so that we have role models that we can like
Yeah,
look
like
up to up here.
representation, representation. Look, yeah, yeah. Good
So
for
we
you.
actually got like Sheila Marcello, like the founder of care.com, which IPO'd, and now she has her own AI startup to come and present. We got Sol Rashidi, like the former chief AI
Oh,
officer at
I
Merck.
love her. I follow her on
Yeah,
LinkedIn. She's so
yeah,
awesome.
she's so cool. Yeah, former chief AI officer at Estee Lauder. I wanted to bring a different side of things and showcase women that were killing it so that like the people, again, women aren't getting as much funding, but we need to have these role models that we can see so that we can feel like we can get there. And so what I ended up doing is like I ended up like finding some sponsors, and I was like, I need like the highest women that are in AI that you guys know. um, to help me bring these women in, because most of these founders are very early stage. They're bootstrapped to Series A. Like I want like as high people as we could possibly find.
Hmm.
And so that I think was like really incredible way to be able to change the narrative and share the struggles, but also like celebrate the accomplishments of the women that have paved the way forward for us. There is still that group of people that have made it, and so if we can kind of band together and change the narrative, we can be more empowered to try to like break this glass ceiling. Um, yeah, because I think I've seen like other instances sometimes where it can have a more negative connotation, and I'm like, okay, but like, what are action items from here,
Hmm.
and how can we like instill change? And so,
Yes, it's like
yeah,
one thing to like whine and moan, but that just makes us feel more hopeless. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, it's like, oh, boo, it sucks, it sucks, it sucks. Okay, should we quit? No, like obviously not. And so I think like the answer is community, and what you're doing is the answer. And I know I need to see women succeeding at the highest level. I need the most. My brain can't handle abstract representation. My brain is very simple when it comes to this thing. It needs to see like someone who looks like me succeeding. And that's why that's like really important that you're bringing women in and like women from different backgrounds and saying like, look
yeah,
at
and also
her.
hearing about their struggles, and it's like, oh yeah, they also went through those struggles, but like, here's how
Yeah.
they overcame it.
Yeah.
I think in order to kind of change the statistics, like we need to support one another. We also need advocates across women and men to be able to like support us. Um, we need to be okay being different. Okay, like not being perfect,
Yeah.
and be ready to like sell our vision um, and kind of like make it in that way. And so the best conversations that I've had are one of my mentors was the CTO, or is was the former CTO of the Girl Scouts. So um, she actually used to be this former CTO of Dell and also Sony Music. And the interesting thing is that she used to be my client back at Accenture, and so I actually knew of other people that knew her, but they did not take the opportunity to try to be proactive and try to like get her develop like a relationship outside of the project with her. And so I think for the opportunities that we want, we kind of need to know what those opportunities are, and kind of do things a little bit unconventionally and being proactive about what we want to get it. And so I tell sometimes like some of my old like consulting friends, I'm like, oh, like she was my client before, but like she's now my mentor. And so having like power women like that, like kind of um, being able to like share stories and kind of like provide some sort of mentorship has been like really incredible. But I don't think everyone sees these opportunities, or sometimes they don't take advantage of it. And so I think figuring that out, um, and leaning into the things that you're like really good at, is key to like taking advantage of some of these different like opportunities available.
I mean, you leaned into it because you're not afraid to ask and talk to people. But there are women and just regular entrepreneurs who might have had that same opportunity and been so gripped with imposter syndrome that they're like, well, she's not going to have time for me. Why would she have time for me? Right? We can come up with so many excuses. Can I ask you, like, what was that conversation that you asked? What was that first conversation with her that you were like, would you buy me coffee or something? Or can I buy you coffee?
Yeah. So our origin story for our startup Vocal AI was, there was like a Drake song that went viral that was a deep fake song by Ghostwriter. And so our original idea actually was to develop out like a legal tech platform that could identify deepfakes, and then provide optionality to artists to either monetize it through royalties, or to shut it down. So it's almost like a
Mm,
brand protector for music
hmm,
artists. And so us not coming from music, not having like this audio kind of background, deep tech kind of background, I knew that my mentor had come from Sony Music, and so um, I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, like I want to get feedback on this idea. I know that we worked together years ago. Like I hope everything is going well." And so it was about not considering my entire network and being like, who can help me, and then kind of like building individual relationships. And so I found that relationships are like key to like every single opportunity that I've ever gotten. And the best relationships are not necessarily ones where like they came to me, but it's like I made that opportunity, like similar to like on the train. Like I didn't have to talk to this guy next to me, but like
mm-hmm.
I spoke to him and I was like, hey, like we're on this Amtrak together. Like who are you? Like what do you do? Like this is what I'm trying to do right now. But kind of by putting yourself out there and being a little bit vulnerable, I actually think people like appreciate that.
Of course.
And
Of
being not
course.
afraid. I think actually the thing is like just not being afraid to fail. I think that that's the thing that scares people sometimes. They're like, oh, I don't think I should do this because like they're gonna think badly about this, or um, I don't know, like it's a bit of a fear.
The worst thing that could have happened with the guy on the Amtrak is that he would polite and then he would open his laptop and start typing, right? The worst thing that's the absolute worst case is that he like politely declines further discussion. And then what's going to happen? Like you're not going to die out. You're not going to bleed out right there in the chair because he did that. Like nothing is, but our brains think that that's it. Like we have so much fear around it. And I love what you're saying, Angela. Like don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be different. Take advantage of your network, ask for advice. I will be honest, my business is about as old as your AI furnace and vocal, and I wouldn't have any clients if I didn't spend the first few months of my business just asking everyone who I knew for advice, saying, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? What do you think?" And those people would naturally introduce me to other people and say, "Oh, they actually need a film," and like that's how it worked. I used my network. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. And so like yeah, be scrappy, go out there and network, pave your own way, make your own opportunities. Um, I think that's a great way to end the show. Angela, where can we follow you and what you're up to? And where can we learn more about you?
Yeah, so the best way to follow me is on LinkedIn. Angela Mascarenas, just search me there, and then follow the AI Furnace. You can also search the AI Furnace on LinkedIn. We have a newsletter. We organize events in like a few cities, as I mentioned. But thank you again so much for having me.
One more question before I go. Is there anyone else you think who would be phenomenal to be on this show? How about your your CTO from Dell? Is there anyone else who you think I should, who's like just comes to mind as like cool person?
Yeah, I actually think Natalie Park from Pharmasol, she's a
Mm.
pharmacist that is building her own AI pharmacy kind of company. But what I think the the insights that I think she provides is like coming deep from within an industry and trying to
Mm.
innovate as an industry professional, not coming from an AI background. And I feel like that's a really interesting perspective that you might be able to showcase on your show.
See, I just did what I just went for it and asked, you know? I was vulnerable. Thank you so much, Angela. This has been such a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Cool, Cool, Cool. I'm Cameron Kitt from Yo-Yo's. Huge thank you to Angela Mascarenas for joining us and sharing her incredible journey and all of her amazing insights. You can check out the show notes to find links to her LinkedIn, the AI Furnace, Vocal, and of course Yo-Yo's website. And let us know what you think about this episode on social media with the hashtag Cool, Cool, Cool Podcast.